One of the things that Christians struggle with the most is fear. Fear to move forward, fear in receiving God's promises, fear in being who God created us to be. And so many times in the Bible, God tells us, do not fear, do not be afraid, or fear not, depending on what translation that you're reading, right? And so, but He tells us, do not fear. So, hey Jim, welcome back. I am D. Latoya Matthews, and today I want to talk about 3 fears that are blocking you from receiving your breakthrough. These 3 things are actually robbing you of receiving the promises of God. And so we know that scripture, 2 Timothy 1:7, it says, God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of love, of power, and of a sound mind. So that lets us know that God has not given us fear. That is something the enemy comes to give us because fear cripples us. And if he knows that we are afraid, then we won't take the steps, we won't move, we won't do the thing that God is asking of us, or we'll let fear keep us, complacent, right? So we'll tell ourselves these lies, and that's just fear. Or we procrastinate, which is fear also. And so many times, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. But fear tells us that this is dangerous. Fear tells us that, hey, it's like a red flag. Don't go near there, right? And sometimes fear keeps us in a place that hinders us, right? And so we're told in Genesis 15:1 that God told Abram, do not fear, do not be afraid, when he visited him in a vision, right? And then Moses told the people, do not be afraid, when they were making their exodus. He said, the Egyptians that you see today, you shall see again no more. And that was in Exodus 14:13, right? And we know that God told Joshua when he gave him the mandate to lead the people into the promised land, do not be afraid, be strong, be of good courage, do not be afraid, right? And even when they were going to war, God told the people, do not be afraid. Whenever something was happening, when the angels were when the Magi was visited by the angels of the Lord, the first thing that they told them, do not fear. So fear likes to keep us complacent. Fear likes to keep us in a position of being powerless. But today we're going to break that, and I want to tell you 3 fears that are keeping you from receiving your breakthrough. And number 1 is the fear of people. We're afraid of people's opinions. We're afraid of what people may think about us. So we let that fear of people keep us from fulfilling the assignment God has called us to. We let the fear of people keep us from applying to that position. We let the fear of people keep us from finding true love. We let the fear of people, you fill in the blank. What has the fear of people allowed you to keep you from doing, right? And Matthew 10:28 says, and do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. The only fear that we need to have is fear of the Lord. We don't need to be fearing people, because if we fear people's opinions, then we're also living and dying by those same people. Right? We're going to allow people to cause us to miss the blessings. So that's the first fear, having fear of people. Fear of people's opinions, fear of what they may say about you, fear of what they think about you. And you let that rob you from fulfilling what God has called you to do, and even stepping into your destiny, and fearing what people, if people would judge you based on your past or becoming a new person. You won't even become who you're called to be because you fear what people may say about you. Right? And so we don't get to have the fear of people. The fear that we need to have is the fear of the Lord, right? Number 2, fear of failure is blocking you from your breakthrough. You're afraid to fail. You're afraid, what if I don't get it right? What if I mess this up? And that fear of failure is keeping you from succeeding. That fear of failure is keeping you behind a wall. And that fear of failure is also comes in the form of perfectionism. We want things to be perfect. I can't fail because I need to prove them wrong because of what they've said about me and because of the things that I have done. I want to prove people wrong when they told me that I couldn't get it right, that I would be just like my daddy, that, X, Y, and Z, whatever that fear of failure looks like for you, you're trying to make sure that you're trying to prove a point and you don't want to fail. But instead of looking at it as failure, you need to look at it, what did this teach me? What is the lesson that I got from trying, right? Fear of failure. And the only way you can fail is if you try. And then it's not even failure. It is a lesson that is being taught to you. And the reason that we fear this is because we don't trust God. And I want to read, this comes out of the Message, and Psalms 37:3 says, get insurance with God and do a good deed. Settle down and stick to your last. I love this translation because it says get insurance with God. When you got insurance with God, you're not afraid of failing, because according to the systems of the world, insurance is only pay you what it's worth. But I serve a God that when you fail or something happens, he's going to multiply. He's going to give it back to you 100-fold. So you can't fail when you got insurance with God, because he's going to make sure that you get back up and able to do it all over again, right? That you get to start again, that you get to build again. So when I got insurance with God, I know that I'm taken care of whether I fail or not. And it's all about trusting God, trusting and taking his word. What does he say concerning this? What does he say concerning the failure, right? And so fear of failure is blocking the breakthrough that God has for you, right? Number 3, fear of spiritual warfare. We're afraid of warfare. And that is blocking us and robbing us of going forth in the authority that God has given us, right? And I can remember a time when I used to praise dance. And during the time that I praise dance, something happened in my knee and it got swollen. And I think I twisted it wrong or something happened. But anyway, I had to go to the doctor, and they put this giant needle in my knee to draw out the fluid. And I got afraid, because now I'm like, if I do anything for the Lord, this is the thing that is going to happen. And so I got afraid of the spiritual warfare to go after and do the thing that God has called me to do because of what comes with it. And a lot of us are not fulfilling the assignments that God has for us because we're afraid of what comes with it, not knowing that we have the one who is the Lord of hosts, the one who protects us, the one who holds all power in his hands, who is with us to see us through the assignment, to protect us, who will be a hedge of protection around us. Because we don't know that we have a protector, we're afraid of the spiritual warfare. We're fearful of this, and not knowing that we have a hedge of protection, not knowing that we have someone who's going to protect us, because the one who has called us to the assignment is going to protect us against whatever we may be faced with. So a lot of us are not fulfilling the assignment because we're afraid of what comes with it. We're afraid of the attacks. We're fearful of what the enemy may want to do, right, to us. And so we let that fear of spiritual warfare keep us from moving forward in the assignment. But Ephesians 6:10-11 says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take a stand against the devil's schemes. You got the full armor of God, and you can overcome spiritual warfare by putting on the helmet of salvation, the breastplate of righteousness, having your sword of the spirit, your loins girded about with truth, right? You got the shield of faith, and your feet is propped with the preparation of the gospel of peace. So when you're fearful of spiritual warfare, that means you hadn't put on your armor yet. That means you don't know the one who is going with you, who has gone before you, who has your front, your rear, and your sides. You don't know that yet. So therefore, you let spiritual warfare keep you in a place of bondage. But we got God with us. And so these are 3 reasons why you're not seeing breakthrough in your life, because you're fear of people, fear of failure, and fear of spiritual warfare. But it's time to break free of the fear and go and trust and believe in what 2 Timothy 1 says, that God has not given us a spirit of fear. A spirit is something that grasps you, that has you in a strokehold. It can be a stronghold. But we got one who has all power, who can break that spirit, who can break that stronghold. And it's time for you to receive the promises of God. Don't let it continue to rob you and keep you in this place where you're not seeing movement. It's time to break free. Right? And so again, I am D. Latoya Matthews, your freedom ambassador, and I am on a mission to prepare women of faith who've experienced abortion and trauma into true freedom and lasting transformation, so that you can go live the life that God has created for you. We're not giving power to the enemy no more. God has given us all authority, and I want you to share this video with someone who may needs to hear this message on today, and subscribe, because we're coming weekly every Wednesday to give you a message, to give you tips and tools so that you can triumph in life. And so I really hope this message has blessed you today, and that you just break the power of fear so that you can go and receive your breakthrough. Until next time, have a blessed day.